Hello, welcome to another tutorial. Today we will be covering the particle effects like I discussed earlier, but first I want to quickly show you guys something that I found recently. So last video we went over modeling and we went through the Iceman, we imported this base model and then we put a texture on it and it didn't look great. So I recently found this person on DeviantArt, art website for artists, and they actually have a lot of models available. So if I can quickly show you here, you can see that I have models to basically all the Marvel characters, and I'll be putting a link down to this in the description so you guys can all get these for yourself because they're really good. They're meant for the game Marvel Contest of Champions, which means that they're professional quality. But also, if I open up that Iceman, once I find him, here, if I open him up, you'll see that he has all these great textures, but he is a bit small, but all you have to do is size him up. But look, see all these joints? That means that he's already rigged, which is amazing, especially if you're using a demo of Cheetah 3D and you can't save. Like, the fact that you can import models that are pre-textured and pre-rigged is it saves a lot of time. Also, this Iceman, he comes with a little prop, a ice fist, which I may or may not use if I ever try to use him in a film. Let me see if I can do something. Okay, so what I just did was, if you noticed before, the arrows were a bit twisted and sort of confusing to navigate. So I went up to the help bar, I typed in joint, and then I went to orient joint while selecting the joint. And this it remaps where the arrows are. So that way it's easier to use. Okay, so for this specific tutorial, we will not be using the Iceman model, so I will just delete him, because today we will be discussing something a bit more complex, particles. Today we're going to be specifically talking about particle emitter. So if you open up the particle emitter, you will see this 2D box. It doesn't really do anything, but if you press the play button, you'll start to notice all these little dots start to flow out of it just naturally, and in its default state, it will just do this for the length on the timeline. So if I go back in particle emitter, the first thing I would do is I would attach a model to it, because if I render this image, there's nothing there. You can't actually see the particles emitting, because this is a outline. You have to actually replace the particles with an object. So you can import any shape. I suggest a ball if you're doing a blast like I want to do. And it actually already attached the ball to the particle emitter. But usually you would just get it outside of this. So you would have these two individually. You see this ball, and if you want to texture the particles that come out, you have to give them a texture. So I will use the Iceman texture that I used for that ice fist the prop we saw previously because I'm trying to make this ice blast, so I'm going to assume that this will work well. So I attach that to the ball, and then we attach the ball to the particle emitter. So now if we play this, you'll notice that the particle emitter now is releasing all of these textured balls. And it doesn't look great right now. And that's because they're too big. So you have to scale these down, and depending on the look you want to achieve, I'm right now going to try 0.1. This could require a little guess and check depending on what effect you're trying to achieve. So now you have this. Now you have all these flowing out. And now that we have the sort of look we want, which I might actually size it down one more time to 0.05. Now I would go and start going into the settings for the actual particle emitter itself. So right now it's going fairly slow. So if you want it to go faster, you have to go to the speed, which is sort of self-explanatory. I would set that to 10. Now you see it goes far faster. But it's going faster, and there are now less particles in a certain area. So if you want to make it more dense now, you have to adjust how many particles that the particle emitter creates, how many of these textured spheres that it releases. So you have to go to the birth rate, and the birth rate is currently 100. So that means every second it will make 100 of these particles. So let's set that to 1,000. Now, you'll see it's much more condensed. There are a lot more within a certain area. Because now, to make up for the increased speed, we've increased the amount it makes. Next, so say you are trying to have a particle go off later than just like immediately starting. Because as you see, the minute I start the animation, it's going to come out. Well then, you would want to adjust the start time. So if we set the start time to 1 instead of 0, you'll notice that particles don't start coming out till the 1 second mark. Then if you want it to end at a certain time, you can just set the end time. So if we set the end time to 2, then the particles will run between the span of 1 second and 2 seconds and will stop. The emitter shape. So right now, if you notice, it's just a rectangle. It's coming out of this rectangle because the particle emitter is shaped as a rectangle. So if we change the emitter shape, we can change what it looks like. So disk makes it a circle. So now all of the particles will come out in the shape of a circle. Which, depending on the effect you want to achieve, this may be what you want. In fact, it's harder to tell the change from this straight-on look. So I'm going to rotate the camera, and now you can see that it's a cylinder. It's a cylinder built out of these particles. So this effect can be used for a lot of things. I mainly am right now using it for blasts, but it can also be used for rain. If you take this particle and you turn it down, and then you expand how wide it is. Whoops, my bad. That just extends how widely the particles look. But if you extend the range of the particle emitter, then you can get this rain effect, which the main use of particles is whenever you want to animate a large effect, but you don't want to have to animate every little piece. So, for instance, if I want to show someone breaking glass, and I want to show the glass shattering. Well, I don't want to animate every piece of glass because that would be ridiculous, so time consuming and extremely unnecessary. Instead, I could use a particle emitter, which then I would make every little particle look like a piece of glass, and that would be how I would do it. Uh, Now for glass shattering, you would also have to use physics, which we will discuss in a later video. I just wanted to cover the very basics of this, and if there's anything else you want me to explain about particle emitters, just comment below. Uh, Also, in a later video, we will be explaining the particle array. So that will be coming because I have some time. I'm going to start turning out some videos. But until then, thank you for watching.